That's good enough right there just to get you one to come in this bitch. Library of Congress, white slavery, or selling white men for debt. Okay. That should make people want to stop when they scroll past. That should damn should make people want to stop as they scroll past. But yeah, we in this thing, man, about to get started on the early morning. For the early morning, let's throw that right there. That's a good thing to see. That's a good thing to see. That's gonna be the topic. We just kind of getting going. Let me roll one up. Is y'all roll one up too? The first thing y'all should see at that top corner, white slavery. And the second thing at the top, Library of Congress. Yeah. Yeah. Y'all should be real curious about that. Because most people just think it was the black folks that was so-called slaves. But what's funny, the more you look into this topic, the more you notice it's different from what they say it was. The more you look into it, the more you realize that bullshit story they said about indentured servitude was not true. Where they said, hey, YT people can only be indentured servants. And they would have a set time, and then they would get free, and then they would get freedom dues, and blah, blah, blah. No. Nope. I don't know where people be getting this information. And don't get me wrong, there might have at some point been an indentured servitude type of case, which there likely was, some of the ones that were more voluntary, where people volunteered their, what's up, Regal? Where people volunteered, there might have been a case where people volunteered themselves for involuntary servitude. What's up, C3? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they didn't have slavery. Now, one thing should make y'all interested in coming in here first is the first thought is white slavery, and then the second one is Library of Congress. Why should that make you interested? Because that kind of puts that official stamp on it. Puts the official stamp that, oh, this actually did happen. This ain't just something that people were talking about. And what's the details on it? And also, how did what's up, Mocha? How did the public receive this? As we get started, that boy had to roll it up. I've been reading about this all morning. Technically, what have I done all morning? To be honest, I've been on the MODOK topic for a bit because I really do want Mr. Wanagi to make his way back. Because I got new information about the MODOK tribe that I would really like to ask Mr. Wanagi some questions. So hopefully people can share the live to him, or I might need to share the live to him. But, I looked up a lot about the MODOK Indians. So we're going to, we definitely might even talk about the MODOK Indians and the Klamath. And we might even look at their treaty articles that I thought was pretty interesting. Especially the one where, how come their treaty article has to talk about alcohol? Like the dancing rabbit treaty. You know what? Let me just make sure before I say it. I don't think it does though. Let me look, let me pull up the dancing rabbit treaty real quick because I'm like, hold on, I don't think the dancing rabbit treaty talks about alcohol like that. Dancing, but I could be wrong. Hold on, I didn't. I never looked dancing rabbit, and I hate to just say something and not be right. Right. Let's go to the dancing rabbit treaty. And we're gonna look up certain words real fast. Find on page liquor. Liquor's not on there. Spirit. No, spirits, the navigable streams, ardent spirits. And that's not the kind of spirits they're talking about. And liquor, spirits, beer, no, and alcohol. Let me try that. Alcohol. Yeah, okay. So yeah, my people didn't have to have a clause in their treaty concerning people drinking spirituous liquors. Okay? So I really hope Mr. Wanagi comes back. And also, our treaty didn't have to have a clause in it to tell us to stop selling Indian children and women. It says something like, oh yeah, squaws or children, or trying to sell off their squaws and children, basically telling them to stop. Yeah, I would like Mr. Wanagi to make his way back this way so we can figure out why his treaties had to mention that they were not supposed to be doing that. So yeah, I've been on a lot this morning, a lot of MODOK, but then eventually I turned my thoughts toward slavery. I forgot what kind of got me on it. I think I had a tab open. Yeah, I had to. Somebody kept putting about the Black No R black codes yesterday in the chat. Like we were talking about. We were talking about. Slavery, and I was pulling up the old slavery documents. And he kept typing in Code Noir. Oh, Code Noir, black codes, that's going to debunk that. He typed it in about 40 times. So many times that I had to tell him, you can stop typing that. I understand. I'll get to that when we get to that topic. So I ended up pulling up the Code Noir book. Now, I haven't found a book in English, but I did find this Code Noir breakdown somewhere. I had it up that I read through. Here's one. Here it is. So this is supposed to be the same book, but the book is very long, and as you can see, this goes through some articles and it kind of stops there. Whereas the book is like 300 something pages. So I'm like, well, y'all really hella paraphrase that book. So that doesn't give me confidence. I'm probably still gonna have to go through and translate the damn book. But I still read through some of these articles, and these are some of these same articles from that Black Code. But he kept talking about that. So that's kind of what kind of got me on it. And as I read through those, I still wasn't really feeling much. And then I started reading through the regulation of slavery. No, it was Missouri's archives about the Code Noir. That again, which is the Black Code. So that right there, excuse me, that right there made me decide that maybe I'm gonna go ahead and just start looking into the slavery topic today again. Like, what else can I find? Because if this Black Code was in process between 1682 to 1803, and this was in Louisiana, or all of the Indian territory at the time, basically, besides the 13 colonies, that's why that 1803 date is there. 1803 is what? 1803 is when the Louisiana Purchase happens. They don't say it right here, but we know that. So the Black Codes were basically instituted until 1803. So basically, this is going to tell me, when I do finally look through it, besides those articles, and those articles kind of gave me some information. But this is supposed to be the laws that were instituted during slavery time, or, well, not during slavery time, but, in a sense, before 1865. in slavery before the English or the United States made their way that way after the Louisiana Purchase. So that's important to know because they didn't make it their way till 1803, and then we still got to know what were the codes or information, laws that were after this, as well as what were the laws in the colonies. Now, there's a Virginia slave or slave, whatever, black, whatever it is. But that stuff, a lot of that stuff doesn't come out until damn near toward the end of slavery. Let me move back. Whoops. Let me move this back so I can be a little bit more comfortable here. So a lot of that didn't come out until the end of slavery, like a lot of these other little slave codes, such as like this one we were looking at yesterday. And here, this is the slave code for the District of Columbia, right? But this didn't even come out until damn near 1860. 1860. Now, slavery ended in 1865, so, like, reading this is cool, and I'm going to read more of it, and we read some of it the other day, or yesterday, and that's good, but when you think about the fact that it only was instituted for 5 years, it's not going to give me a big picture on what the hell slavery was. It's still good to read it because it's going to show trickery. The trickery that happens toward the end of slavery, towards Reconstruction. So it's still important because of that, but I can't take this for what the hell slavery was the entire time. This is almost like they're trying to rewrite what slavery was. In my opinion, if you write in slavery codes in 1860, 5 years before slavery ends, and 200 some, 100 some odd years since it's already been around, it tells me that you're trying to recreate, reestablish what it really was on paper before it goes away, and why. So that's why I started looking up more into it. Now, what got me on this? What made me find this? How did I even know that this existed? Some document like this? Well, I have a section here called Slavery Propaganda. And in my Slavery Propaganda folder, which we were in yesterday as well, I do have what was I about to say? Oh, yeah, newspaper clippings. I was like, what the hell am I looking for? I have newspaper clippings that I found back in the day. I can't even remember how I found them. But it's talking about Harrison's Law for selling and whipping white men and women applied to criminals only, and on the false ground that they labor and excite indignation. But they were talking about Harrison's Law, where a white person could be whipped or sold. Now they're saying, hey, it applied to criminals only. Now the reason why they're trying to say that is because they're trying to find a little protection from those indentured servants who came over here who are not criminals. Okay? Why would they be trying to say, hey, this applies to criminals only? It's funny, we didn't even know it would apply to white folks at all. You know what I'm saying? But here it is applying to criminals who are white. But then you got to think, why is that? And so when you think, why are they trying to establish the distinction between the two, is because there was white folks who were also enslaved or indentured, who they're just trying to make sure they don't get whipped or sold. Doesn't mean they aren't indentured, enslaved. So it says the law applies to the wrongs against the public, to misdemeanors as well as crimes, between which there is a very difference. And although the act which drew upon a penalty of law were such as might in general be avoided, they did not partake of that high culpability requiring selling and whipping. And what are the facts of Harrison's Law? So now one here, you got here where this is like, so we're going to go, and I'm about to read this next. We're going to read the actual thing here next, but I want to show you what was the public sentiment of them coming out with this. That's many good reasons for going to the newspapers. One, it's usually going to be a reactionary thing from what people are doing. If something happens, some big event, some law came out or whatever, people are going to go to the newspapers and they're going to write about it. And they're going to write about how they don't like it, how they do like it, are they for it, are they against it, whatever. Another thing is you'll find facts in here sometimes of things that you just didn't know before. But regardless of that, you definitely will see public sentiment. So we're going to read this right here. This paragraph right here. And it says, we quote from a contemporary who says, there are many acts which in themselves are not in any way criminal, which are made offenses by prohibition. For example, a poor girl, as it has been remarked, carrying her butter to the market, trots her horse across a bridge. She gets prosecuted and is unable to pay the fines and costs. She is sold into slavery. A Negro becomes her purchaser. Okay, now, first of all, you should be thinking about a couple of things you be thinking about this. If all black people mostly at this time are supposed to be slaves, why would they be why would they be so worried about a Negro purchasing a white girl? Peace. Frank, peace. What's up, crew? How if all black people in the United States at the time are supposed to be enslaved, why are they so worried about a Negro purchasing a white girl who just broke the law? Breaking the law was trot her horse across the bridge, apparently. I don't know why. Maybe you weren't supposed to trot horses across bridges back then. So it says a Negro becomes her purchaser who may whip her with 39 stripes on her bare back if she attempts to escape. What a killing sympathy for poor people. So you remember this? So I hope you remember that 39 stripes, because I was like, why do they keep saying 39 stripes? They say it multiple times. Another guy, blah, 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 39 stripes, right? Well, now let's move over. Let's go to here. Because just to spoil that last thing I just said, be whipped with 39 stripes. It was part of the law. I don't know why they made it 39. Like, why not 40? I don't know. It's just weird. But 39 stripes, 3 and 9 and 6 are powerful numbers, but whatever. According to Tesla. So here we got white slavery. Okay. So here we go. White slavery, or selling white men for debt. Okay. It says from the Globe. This is 1840. It says, we have received from Indianapolis a certified copy under the broad. Let me move this back. Good, man. Wish I can get this a little smaller. Something like that. Y'all just gonna have to trust what I'm reading. We have received from Indianapolis a certified copy under the broad seal of the state of Indiana of the 11th, 30th, and 31st sections of the Act of 1807. So notice the year. Notice the year. The year is 1807 when this act was approved by General Harrison. Harrison's Law, remember? Harrison's Law. Harrison's Law, right there. That's General Harrison, okay? on this document. It says, providing for the sale of white men and women in certain cases. And also the third section of an act regulating elections approved in like manner, requiring a property qualification in voters for representatives and etc. This copy of this word. So think about this. This is one of this act. Not only did it have an act that dealt with the slavery of people who broke the law, but it also has a clause in there about how you have to be a landowner or a property owner in order to vote. That's still around today. And in fact, to be honest with you, slavery after conviction is still kind of around today. Motherfuckers go to the jail. They end up working for Victoria's Secret for 20 cents an hour or something. And then they take that and buy Roman noodles. Now, ain't that a bitch? Now, a lot of us say, hey, whatever, it's whatever. Like, you shouldn't have did wrong. You shouldn't have did this. You got to go pay your debt. And I'm cool with the idea of paying debt to society. But back then, people used to actually have to pay debt to society. What is that? Like, somebody can buy you because you broke the law. And when they bought you, you would pay that debt back through putting in work for that person. But now they're putting in work for corporations who we go and buy stuff from. I don't know if that's the same exact, you know what I'm saying? But let's look forward. Let's keep going. And also think about this. White folks and Mexicans and everybody else ain't exempt from that. They also can be in jail, enslaved for commissary. Okay? So as much as they want to make it seem like we're the criminals, which is kind of like what I be telling people, like the way that they say how we was all slaves back then, and they just like, all of y'all was slaves. That's just what it was. All of y'all was. That's no different from when they come up on a panel and they say all of y'all was criminals. All of y'all are criminals today. Because what was a criminal back then? Likely a slave. That was the punishments for it. Right? So they just calling you the same thing. They just calling you a modern version of it. They just calling you and blanketing your race. Talking about you all are the most prisoners and per capita this and bullshit that, you know. So let's keep reading. Let's actually read the act. So this is an act representing crimes and punishment. Now, I'm so happy that I found this because when I first started looking into slavery and started thinking about it, I didn't have the facts, but in my head, I would say, man, this seems like something you would do for like somebody committing a crime. Like, I can get slavery. I don't like the idea of slavery just on any basis, but like just a regular basis. And in today's time, it's a little bit different. I could still somewhat understand it in today's time, even when you go to jail. If you want to make a nigga earn a little Roman noodle, I really ain't tripping. I do believe if a corporation is going to get benefits off of that and be able to pay people for cheaper labor, they should be able to pay them still at a normal rate, or the money that they not paying them, that they still have to pay it, and that goes into the state funds. Like, if y'all don't want to get them niggas all the funds, that's fine, but don't give these corporations no motherfucking discount because they decide to use commissary slaves in the motherfucking prison system. Like, nah, you know what I'm saying? That's not giving us no motherfucking benefit. You think about how many people are benefiting. You got the private prisons that's going to benefit off the person that's in there. They're going to get paid for the entire time that the person is there, and then they're going to put that person to work, which is going to get them paid, right? Which is going to save the corporation some money. Everybody except for the public is really benefiting off of that because the public is putting the money in the hands of the private prisons, and then the public is also going to buy the Victoria's Secret for their bitch. Sorry, for their women. Sorry. Sorry like that. Y'all know I love my women. For their female. For their women. For the lovely women. I love them. Sorry. I'll just be going in right, with my little words sometimes. But I love y'all. But, somebody going to buy that money for their women. You know what I'm saying? Peace, y'all. And next thing you know, we losing money on both fronts. Now part of my tax money done went to the goddamn private prisons. And then part of my money don't went toward the goddamn gift, giving it to my woman. Right? Shit, where do I benefit as a public on the motherfucking goddamn, Anyway, let's read the section 11. So at least this helps to validate. So it says, if any person shall unlawfully assault, threaten another in any menacing manner, or shall strike or wound another, he shall, upon conviction thereof, be fined a sum not exceeding $100, and the court before whom such conviction shall be had may, in their discretion, cause the offender to enter into recognizance with surety for the peace and good behavior for a term not exceeding 1 year. So it says that you can be put into recognizance with surety. Let's read down to the next section. It says, when any person or persons shall, on conviction of any crime or breach of any penal law, be sentenced to pay a fine or fines, with or without the cost of prosecution, it shall and may be lawful for the court before whom such conviction shall be had to order the sheriff to sell. Order the sheriff to sell or hire the person. Funny how they have it like that, right? To sell or hire the person or two persons so convicted. To service. Hire you or sell you to service. To any person or persons who will pay the said fine and costs for such term of time as the said court shall judge reasonable. Now let's just stop there real quick. This basically told you any crime, nigga, can get you sold. And if you can't pay them jail fees, you're gonna get sold. Now, I've showed this before. Now, this is more propaganda because they're trying to make us the face of that law, the face of it. But this also is in the Library of Congress, the slave market of America, right? And when you zoom in, you will see here well, let me highlight it because it's so small. You will see here, it says, the results is that free citizens are often arrested, plunged into prison, then sold for their jail fees, like we just read, as slaves for life. Okay? So this is another document telling you that. But on top of that, it's like I said, it's propagandistic because the Harrison's Law says anybody can be sold, white or black. It don't even really specify. But they're harping over this. White people, right? But notice how they're trying to make it look like it's just of black folks getting sold. And what did I tell you? Propaganda. They're trying to make it look like you were just the only slaves. Okay? They're trying to make it look like you were just the only ones being whipped and sold and all this other stuff. You were the criminals, just like now. You couldn't pay your jail fees like some of us sometimes can't. You know, if you get too many backed up fees and they put out a warrant for your arrest because you done got pulled over too many times, and that's some bullshit. You know, it's a slippery slope on some minor charges that can get a nigga caught up. Back then, they could get your ass sold as a slave. Which ain't too much different. You can get your ass in jail and be a slave for some car manufacturer company wiring up something, you know. But they trying to make it seem like it was just us. Now, granted, they went through and talked about certain laws that were passed that were directly affecting us, which would cause us to end up in these situations more often than not, based upon the shitty laws. But it's just when you look at this, the propaganda makes it look like they weren't nowhere near. They weren't nowhere near in this, but the white folks would have been in this. Anybody would have been in this, because anybody could have been whipped or sold and sold to hire. Now, another thing I want you to think about is when they said black people own black people. Black people also own white people, right? But they say black people own black people, and they would always just say, well, that's just because they was buying their family. And in some cases, it was either they counted your family as slaves on the census, so you didn't really buy them, they were already yours, and they just counted them as that. Some cases, it might have been that you bought a nigga, or you bought a white boy because you got a farm and a plantation, and why wouldn't you? Just think about it. Think about it like this. In a time where there is no big jail complexes, right? And now they have laws out, and there's several black folks or kids out there maybe breaking the law. You don't think you're going to go buy some of those kids to put them to work and try to teach them a better way? People do that now. Y'all be like, man, I'm going to go out there and give me some of these young youth, man, and try to teach them, you know what I'm saying, better this and that and the third. Y'all can't, I can easily see many situations where a black person will either black people or buy some white folks and laugh at them and put their ass out there. I can see that. You know what I'm saying? Get your pale ass out in that sun. Burn, motherfucker. This is cruel and unusual punishment. Niggas just son. I can see that happen. But it's something to think about, right? The dynamics of slavery are more than just what they say. They try to blanket, they always try to give you one blanket thing, like y'all was all slaves. And then when you question it, they'll give you another blanket thing. Well, y'all owned y'all family. That's the only slaves y'all had. And then when you question that, then they'll throw something else. Well, technically white people could be slaves, but they was indentured servants. And then when you question that and show them laws like this, well, it's just like, yeah, man, look, man. Yeah, slavery was a lot different, and the whole time was different. Not to mention, you could buy your way to freedom. Not to mention, you could buy your way in installments, as we've seen. Not to mention, the Spanish had abolished black codes when they got there into the French. So when we finally do look at the black codes, they wasn't around that long. Well, they wasn't around during Spanish time. And that's another thing. People would be, I just heard it on the panel yesterday. Don't you know the Spanish was all up in there like that, man? Y'all wasn't ducking the Spaniards. Like, dude, the Spaniards came in and abolished slavery in the French territories, according to what I read. I gotta pull that up. But and I also got the laws that they had in Cuba, the slave laws for the manumissions and concerning slaves, and it talks about how they had all kind of protections and stuff, man. It basically, you was just a worker with protections and certain parameters. Now, this is different. This type of slave is a criminal slave. And now you got to think, you got different types of slaves now. You got different types of servants. You have slaves who are criminals. You have slaves who are indentured servants, slaves who are not criminal, but just so happen to be slaves. There was one other thing I was just thinking about. And it's going to say it here, because some people, it's going to say it here, I believe. It tells you, like, slaves can be made of people who are, we'll get to it, like you'll become a slave through criminal, becoming a prisoner of war from a situation, which we know that happened, right? And some other situations, but different types of slaves, types of servitude. Oh, you got apprenticeships, you got voluntary servitude, involuntary servitude or whatever. I guess that might be it should be different. Which involuntary should be criminal, and then you got slaves. All these different situations. Some people were criminal slaves. Some people were worker slaves in a sense. Well, they weren't criminals. Some people had a set time before they can be released, whether that be because of criminal or because they hired themselves out. Now, a servant can hire themselves out for a certain time or voluntarily decide to be into servitude for a set period of time via contract, and after that time they can be released. But during that time they are treated as damn near like a slave. Now, you might not be sold. That just kind of depends though too. Mm. So let's read the rest of it. Okay, my bad. So it says, where we start off at? Hire, blah, 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 blah. Cost of term. Judge said is reasonable, and if such person or persons so sentenced and hired or sold shall abscond from the service of his or her master or mistress before the term of such servitude shall be expired, he or she so absconding shall, on conviction, before a justice of the peace, be whipped with 39 stripes, and shall moreover serve 2 days for every one so lost. So you could get whipped, and that's where that 39 stripes comes from. All right. So let's go down here. Next section. The judges of several courts of record in this territory shall give this act in charge of the grand jury at each and every court in which a grand jury shall be sworn. Chambers, whatever. Now, this is the law regulating elections. Not really worried about that. I did read it. Regulating elections. Okay, right here. The whole principle of slavery is involved in the first. I think these are like reactions to it. The whole principle of slavery is involved in the first of these acts, which was approved by General Harrison. It provides that persons, men or women, under circumstances, shall be sold. It uses in relation to purchasers the terms masters and mistress, and it provides that for running away, these new made slaves shall be whipped 39 stripes. So as you can listen to it, he's almost like basically saying, man, this basically sounds like slavery. Okay? You talking about you're going to be able to put these people in here and they can be sold, whipped. You talking about they're going to be under some master or some mistress? Talking about they going to call them runaways and shit? These are my white folks. Why? That's slavery. Why would you do that, right? That's the sentiment there. Then it says, in many barbarous countries, men have been sold into slavery in all ages for various causes, sometimes for crime and sometimes for misfortune, sometimes for offenses against the community of which they were members, and sometimes in consequence of being vanquished and taken prisoners of war. You see what it said? So let's read that again. Let me put that so you can see it all somewhat. It says, in many barbarous countries, so this is talking about in general, but men have been sold into slavery in all ages and various causes, sometimes for crimes, sometimes for misfortune. So I forgot to say that. You could be poor and end up in slavery. And you might ask, why? How could that? Well, if you just kind of lingering on the streets, you might get arrested and and get put in jail or whatever, and you can be in that same situation, or non-criminally, you can have misfortune like you didn't pay your bills and now you incur debts, which is kind of crazy. You got to pay off your debts back then, different things, but so yeah, being poor. So it's various cases, so crime, sometimes misfortune, sometimes offenses against the community in which they are members, pretty much like a crime, and sometimes in consequences of being vanquished and taken prisoners of war, okay? And so we know that there was a lot of Indian wars going on. between our people and all kind of folks. Somebody said, "All Wanagi proved was that he's an idiot." I just uploaded my video from yesterday, me going off on Mr. Wanagi. I hope he shows up today. Let me see if he in here. He ain't gonna be in here right now, is he? He probably would have requested that by now, because I got some new shit for him about his own tribe. But okay, under Harrison's law, let me move this. Under Harrison's law, men and women were to be sold for their poverty. The sale was not to be in consequence or of committing the crime, but in consequence of not being able to pay the fine and cost. So I can understand this, and we'll keep going. It says, it was no part of the penalty for theft, assault, and battery, or of other offenses against the penal laws. It constituted no part of the sentence in such cases. The sentence was to pay a certain amount as fine and the cost of prosecution. The man who had property paid his money and was free. He who had not must be sold, not for the crime, but for the poverty which deprived him of the means of payment. So I get what they're trying to argue is like, hey, what you're saying is like a rich man and a poor man can do the same crime, and the rich man can get off, while the poor man can be sold into slavery, and it's not fair. But it's not the fact that, I mean, it really ain't fair in a sense, yeah. Which today's time is kind of similar, but today's time, even if you got tons and tons and tons of money, sometimes you can still get caught up, right? But sometimes if you got tons of money and influence, you know, that you can grease enough palms and have enough influence to get out of it. But same thing likely back then too. But it says in approving that act, General Harrison showed that he considered liberty and property equal in consideration. The rich man's money and the poor man's liberty were balanced against each other. The rich man might pay the penalty with his money and go free, but the poor man's liberty must be taken to pay it. General Harrison's act considers money and liberty of the same value. Okay, so basically, I read through this. He's just going to be going into his reaction, and these are their reactions. This one talks about a section here. As you can see, section 19 says, again, look at his vote in 1820. In 1820, General Harrison was a member of the Ohio State Senate. A motion was introduced in relation to the law of debtor and creditor, which is taken from the journal as follows. It says, Mr. Filton moved to strike out the 19th section of the bill as follows. It says that when any person shall be imprisoned, either upon execution or otherwise, for non-payment of a fine or cost, it shall be lawful for the sheriff of the county to sell out such persons as a servant to any person within that state who will pay the amount due for the shortest period of service, of which sale public notice shall be given of at least 10 days, and upon such sale being effected, the sheriff shall give to the purchaser a certificate thereof, and deliver over the prisoner to him. So just think about that. They marketed this to the public and was required by law to market this into the newspapers in the public. Just like slaves. Remember, they would bring in slaves supposedly from wherever or ship us from one side to the other side and say that they got a slew of new slaves and that you can be sold and auctioned off. This is no different. White folks can be auctioned, sold off, sent, whatever the hell. Don't let them play games. It's just like today, they try to act like they ain't criminals today. Nah, y'all are the most criminal, okay? Quit playing games. And just like back then, at some point in time, they probably were the most slaves. and the most servants. Now, on paper, they try to, and this is what, now you got to think about it. Think about this. At some point in time, somebody said, hey, on the census record forms, we're going to start counting all white people as free white people. Now, people try to say that that means landowner, but I don't believe that, because when you look at now, it may mean that on some other thing, but not on census forms, and I'm going to show you why. Well, you know what? Let me not get out of there. Let me go here to a census, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Actually, that's not going to get me to a census. I guess I got to go out of here. I'm trying to think of the quickest way I can get to a nice census form. Okay. So I'm going to show you what I mean. And I never really thought about it until now as we are on this. Now that's old, but hold up. Excuse me. Man, let me just do this. Census. Okay. Come on now. I need one from the other side. That was all from the slaves and color folk side, and I don't want that. I'm looking for the other side. Really? I mean, I can use that one. That's kind of old. Whatever. I'm just trying to make a quick point. Hell, this is bullshit. Let me. That's crazy. I would think that I would have that right there. That's whack. Sorry, y'all. Like, I got this section, which, excuse me. I will show this. So you do have a slave section, okay? Now that we know that anybody could be involuntary servitude, criminal servants, slaves, whatever, what category is this slave? They never really say. Even when I look at a lot of the instructionals for the census takers at the time, and I'm gonna double check. I'm gonna go look at another one. But I don't remember. It's almost like they would explain what a head of household was, but for slaves they would just say slaves, and be like males and females, and I'd be like, y'all got, as I just showed y'all, there are so many different classifications on what a person in a sense could be a slave. Now, if you just want to say, so is this just a textbook definition slave, or is this people who would be enslaved on somebody's property? What kind of games are they playing, right? Because then you got the free colored section, okay? And there's almost never anybody, they hardly ever any people that they want to type or put over there, but you got free colors and you got free whites and you got slaves. So people would try to say free whites meant slave owner. Well, the reason why I don't see that, free whites meant landowner, I'm sorry. Oh, man, I wish I had the other one. You know what, I should be able to just, and that's it right there. It's just hella pixelated. God damn it. So just so you know, this says free white person. As pixelated it is. Males, females, whatever. As some of y'all seen this. This says head of families. Okay? If free white person meant landowner, that means everybody under here is the owner of the land. Now, is that usually going to be the case, or is the head of the family going to be the owner of the land? Right? Is the head of the family the owner of the land, or do everybody own the land that's under free white persons? Now you make me think. I don't know. If you can vote, but you had to be a property owner. So really, it would be these people, or were people over here voting? That I don't know. Or is this meaning free whites like we mean, or is this meaning like free white people like they're actually free even though they can be in servitude to somebody? And then what is free? If you can be in servitude, if you could be a criminal servant, be a white person, and be under somebody's plantation on a census form as a free white person, what is that? What's the trickery with that? And I'm gonna tell you my idea about it. My idea is that they knew that they was gonna try this whole thing where they wanted to make sure that the future will see white people as free and black people as slaves. And in order to do that, they just wanted to make a list of folks. And they put a lot of black folks as slaves and white folks as free. And they was like, no matter what, you are free white folks. Even though we know we can find hard proof during all of these years that these people had servitude. These people had bondage. You could be criminals. You could be this and that. Not only that, but we have situations, as I can show, we have situations on trees where we have black people of black heritage, okay, who actually has in 1840 on the census record has white folks listed up under his plantation. So we know the dude is of a black whatever. And we're going to come over here. Somebody said give you a lot of criticism. Crashed and now melting down. It's all over America. My bad, y'all. I had to read what that person said. Okay, so again, we saw that he was a black man, right? He's in Alabama, right? Free white persons listed up under him. We're gonna see it on the form. Free white persons listed up under him. So let me ask you this question: do you think these free white persons own some of his land? I doubt it. That's why I doubt free white persons on this form. Now, maybe on something else, but on this form, I doubt that means landowner when you live under a head of household of a nigga, right? So then you got to ask, what is a free white person then? And are they listed as slaves? And if the white persons are listed as slaves and free white persons, or can they be in both categories? Can there be free white persons working for a man at the same time have slaves that are white working for the same man? That's possible. Based upon the things that we've seen, you could be a white person convicted as a criminal, and Mr. Paul Tillman might buy you and hire you on his farm. But he also might hire a free white person who's listed as a free white person, right? Or a non-criminal white person. Okay? You kind of get where I'm going? So it's one of those things where it's trickery in a sense. They knew that this was going to be confusing as hell. They did that on purpose. They knew they was trying to make every white person look like they were somehow a free man, in my opinion, and make black people look like they were mostly slaves. Okay? And then when you come down here, though, you still got black people listed here with people that have white folks under him, right? But how do we even know he's black? Nobody ever puts it on the census forms. The only way you can know these people is black in these further back censuses is you got to trace your family surname back from census forms in 1870 and after, where they did start recording that. Or find proof through other means. You know, if you just looking through census records, right? You could have other proof just because you know that's your family, or whatever the case may be, or some other kind of records, right? You might find Mr. Paul Tillman Willis's birth record from some year or something like that, and it'll say have a race on it or something. So there's other reasons too, but how come they wasn't putting that on the census, right? They just said you was the head of the family. But for the most part, even though they say that you're the head of the family, you could be a black man and still own white folks. And that is apparent as we've been looking at now through the law of Harrison's Law. Let me go back to Harrison's Law here of white slavery. Now, this has probably got to me. This has got to be one of those things they wanted to bury and not let us know what's going on. Like they knew we was gonna know about the involuntary servitude thing of people coming over on boats and voluntarily having themselves, and they gave us that. Now I think they gave us that because we kind of found that out. But they don't want you to know that a lot of people was being sold and whipped and auctioned off and shipped somewhere possibly. And they was a slave just as much for any crime. And this was more prominent than actual slave laws, in my opinion, because most of the slave laws don't even really like this. This was going in 1807. Your goddamn slave laws that we was looking at right here. This bitch didn't come out to 1860, 5 years before slavery. That's why I said I believe they knew they was trying to rewrite history. And if you're gonna rewrite history, you gotta rewrite legislation. You gotta make it look like all y'all niggas are slaves. All y'all niggas is the ones that are in servitude and under masters. Whereas when we look up under Harrison's Law, they could be put under masters and mistresses, and they were complaining about it. What was that dude say? Right here. Use the term, right here. I can't even highlight it. Using the term masters and mistresses. They're like, I can't believe you're going to put all these people in here, these white folks up under these acts, talking about they're going to be under masters and mistresses, calling them runaways, and these slaves can be whipped with 39 lashes. Like, why would you do my white folks like that? And that's apparent too when we look back in the newspapers, because it was backlash against this law, right? But it had been in effect. Regardless of the case, it had been in effect. And it makes you think differently about slavery. And who was enslaved? Why? It makes you think about people buying slaves, our own people. Why would they buy slaves? So like right here, it's just like, that was the Harrison's Law. People just coming in. This stuff was in the newspapers too. That's actually where I found it. So you got Harrison's Law for selling and whipping white men and women. Okay, applied to criminals on the false grounds that they excite indignation, whatever. And then you get down here, and they was worried about being sold to a Negro, saying, hey, a Negro can become the purchaser and end up whipping this little white girl 39 times on her back. Oh, man. Boy, they didn't want to get whipped. They don't want you to know they was being whipped. But you know what's funny? That makes more sense out of this photograph right here. This little article or this little drawing that I found makes a lot more sense now. Where you go? Right here. That shit right there makes a lot of sense. They don't, and I found that in the Library of Congress. Ain't that funny? Yeah, he beating his ass. Motherfucking white folks back here putting in work. Motherfucking niggas over here dancing a jig. You see that? Yeah, let me put that down in more perspective for you. Yeah. White folks working. He wasn't putting in work. He about to get beat by a sugar cane with his hair grabbed. And everybody over there dancing, not giving a goddamn. And it looked like they over there eating and playing spades, nigga. Shit. So yeah, they could be bought, they could be sold, they could be whipped. 39 lashes, okay? And they can be mad I'm talking about it all they want to, but it was in the law. If they think about this, if they could talk about all the laws, now they try to talk about it like in a bad way. No, and sometimes in a good way too. They'll try, but if they could talk about all the slavery laws that existed with us and how it affected us, and oh man, well, I'm gonna start talking about theirs. Oh, like that Harrison's Law, where we was beating y'all with sugar cane sticks. And patriotic outfits, niggas in his penny loafers, nigga beating his ass. Anyway, man, let me get I was rolling one up anyway. That's going on my little tangent. What's up, everybody that come in here? Now I see why they wanted to it abolished. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Ah, man, I'm running low on motherfucking. Oh, but I got another lighter in this bitch. I lit this. I got to keep smoking this one. Otherwise, it go out. I'm going to be mad. Okay. And I got them electric stoves. I had to sit on that bitch forever. You ever try to light a blunt with an electric stove? That shit annoy the hell out of you. Anyway, all right. So, that was in the Library of Congress, okay? This also was in the Library of Congress, okay? The same law, okay? And then, again, like I showed y'all, they tried to act like it affected us the most, you know? So, like, y'all said, y'all try to light a motherfucking blood on the stove. I'm sure that's what y'all laughing at, electric stove. This nigga just holding that bitch, mad at the bitch. It keeps singeing that motherfucker. You mad in the hole. All right, so, but as I showed y'all, this was the kind of paperwork which I also found in the Library of Congress that tries to be more like propaganda. Got all of that. Said I just did that. I had the lights and the tissue paper. You know, I didn't think about lighting like something thinner. Like, you might have just gave me a new idea. Nigga, light you. See, what you need to do, brother, is take you something thinner than that paper, light that on there, and then take that and like, okay, nigga gave me up. I didn't think about that. That tissue paper will burn a little quicker. Okay. You said they're gonna want reparations, white folks. I know, right? Well, shit. Technically, most of them didn't get sold so they can't get reparations because unless they can prove they were. Let me show you what we were, which we weren't slaves per se. We were mostly classified, but still, we would have been this right here. Come on now. We would have been prisoners of war. Mm-hmm. So reparations can be required for prisoners of war or those who they labeled slaves after wars, which pretty much made us prisoners of wars on paper in the classifications. But they would only be slaves if they were either in misfortune, they were criminals, or they voluntarily provided or voluntarily decided to become servitude and become couldn't think of how I wanted to phrase that. Voluntarily decided to want to become servants. If they decided to become servants on their own, whatever, then they don't have a claim for reparations, in my opinion. Only those taken prisoners of war who would have lost something and then became slaves, or on paper just slaves, would get that. But that was a good note though. Mm-hmm. Because it's good for us to think about those things, because that's what they'll try to say, right? Well, why does it matter if everybody was slaves? Then why does it matter? And that's when we need to pull out. It's almost like showing redress. Like, that's when we need to pull out all the Indian wars, all the reclassifications, and how it affected us. And it's like, okay, well, shit, we was prisoners of war, nigga. When motherfucking Yamasees and people and Guales and other people had to run away from their area down south, nigga, that's a prison, and flee from their area, nigga. I need redress. I need reparations for that. And then y'all come down to Florida fucking with us, and we had to be moving some to Oklahoma, and then some still stayed, but had to deal with your bullshit, and y'all took the sovereignty away. Now we ain't our own nation no more, and all this other stuff. Now we can really show redress now. Instead of just saying we was enslaved. You had us on the plantations picking cotton and shit. they just gonna look at you funny, if they know history, which they likely do. Mm. Our claim is these laws that fleeced us out of our land. Yep, out of our land, out of our status of who we are. Not like Moors be talking about, but as being Indians and being pretty much owners of the land, where landlords, where they pretty much can only lease from us, but that's they done kind of got us out of a lot of that. So yeah, so this is the white slavery, So let me see, what else was I gonna go into? We might talk about the Modoc stuff because I can find some pretty interesting stuff on that. But I'm trying to make sure that I had everything else. I still will be. I may not go through this whole book. It's 308 pages, but this is the Code Noir. It's supposed to be the black codes that existed prior to this law. So this law is said it started about 1807, the Harrison's Law. But people would start to say, that's people are going to say, well, slavery existed well before this. So then you got to, in order for me to combat that, I got to go look back. Well, what were the laws both in the Louisiana area, which would be a vast area, Florida area, right, before the Louisiana Purchase. So the Louisiana area, what were the laws like? And so I'm looking at a French book because Louisiana was somewhat under the French and then eventually the Spanish, right? So now I have a French book that talks about the black codes that they established during that time. And we're going to look into it, but I'm not going to look into it today as I'm going to have to go through. But what I'll likely do is, and I'll tell you my little process, when a book is long and I got to translate it, I translate first the table of contents to see what each chapter is about. And then I just figure out which chapters I'm going to read, basically. It ain't like it's anything uncanny, but it just, if you're thinking of a way like, how do you want to get your way through a book like that? How can you skim your way up through a book like that? You can't do too much skimming, obviously, so you kind of got to be a little bit more meticulous. So I'll have to do that, and hopefully, and usually I'll see certain chapters that really stick out, and in those I'll find some dope shit. But publication date 1743. So this would have been it's like a primary source from the times of slavery within the vast western and midwest side of the United States. Well, I don't want to call it that, really. The South and the everything but the colonies in the West part of the United States. That's going to tell us more about that. So now, let me just go to this real quick. Make sure I got all my little saves off here. I did find, I was looking through, let me read this. Because I was looking through this. I can't remember what I saw in here. This was like it's from Colorado Law EDU, University of Colorado Law, and somebody wrote an essay paper. Not to say it's super truth, but it says there can be little question about the legal status of enslaved people was grim. That the little status of enslaved people was grim. However, free black people were not treated as full citizens merely because they were not enslaved. Instead, the law often imposed many of the legal disabilities of enslaved persons. The rationale for this was evident in his notorious Dred Scott decision. Chief Justice Taney explained the reasons why it was desirable to enslave black people applied to free black people as well. No distinction in the respect was made between the free Negro or mulatto and the slave. I know why I want to, okay. But this stigma of the deepest degradation was fixed upon the whole race. Scholars agree that free black people were subordinated by law. Many statutes of that era group free black people, blah, blah, blah. So what I was telling you is a lot of times during those census forms, They just classified y'all as goddamn slaves. They just treated you like it. If you unless you can show the census taker, likely in my opinion, unless you can show that census taker some free paperwork when she show up, and you ain't the head of the household. Besides the head of household, would just go down as head of household. They could be black, they could be whatever. They wasn't gonna even put that down anyway. But everybody else in that motherfucking house that was black, they was gonna look at you likely as a slave and put you down on there and playing games. Unless you say, hey, I got my paperwork right here. My wife, she's free or something. And then she might be like, oh, okay, well, let me mark that. But everybody else in this bitch is going over here on slave or something if you ain't got no papers. You know, that's been my idea. And looking at this paper, this kind of gives you the mind of what this person, after reviewing whatever they went through in their studies, they kind of came up with a similar idea, but not necessarily talking about it for the census. They're just talking about in general, in public, in the public sentiment, in the laws and stuff like that. You are almost, if you were free, you pretty much was looked at as an enslaved person. And I'll show you that too. We'll take a look at a newspaper clipping which shows how that is apparent. Let me show you. See if I can find it real quick. It said in there that he said he is a free man of what is it? What did it say? I'm trying to think of a key word to get to it. Because I got a lot of newspaper clippings up in here. I don't know if I type in the word free, everything gonna come up. He said he is a. What else did it say in that document? Go back. Yeah. Master. Okay, that ain't as many as many pulled up as I thought. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Man, it may be a minute for me to find that damn thing. To be honest, I may not. But basically, I got a newspaper clipping that basically you got this dude. He and it was from Alabama too. He had just moved to like Alabama from Virginia. Let me type it in. Virginia. I think it was Virginia. He had just moved there, and they picked him up and basically had put him in jail in a holding cell, and was like, the man claims to be free from wherever he comes from, but basically since he's black, we picked him up, and he don't have his papers to prove that. So if somebody want to come and prove it, they can come prove it. Otherwise, he gonna be sold, type of thing. So, but where that damn thing is, man, I'm gonna have to do some diving for it in here, because I may not have even placed it in an actual what you call it yet. I got a photo of Mr. Wanagi. Let me get rid of his photo. I don't like to see people that I only did that just to fuck with them. Yeah, it may take me a minute to find that, because I can't remember where I might have even been when I found it. But just believe me, there was like newspaper clippings that show that people would treat you pretty much the same, like any other slave, as a free black person. And also that other thing I showed you, which basically it said free people can be put in jail and then sold for fees and blah blah blah, this and that. They'll just toss you in there. I mean, it's similar to today. You know what I'm saying? We walk around, people think we criminals. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And that shit is annoying as hell. But as annoying as it can be, it is the reality. But that's just because their reality is they used to be the slaves. And that's why they scared of us, because we used to beat them with sugar cane sticks. and they get scared, and that's why they put out all this movie and propaganda. And that's what's so crazy is you're not gonna find you're not gonna find a lot of stuff about slavery for it to have gone on a long time. And I think that's why they burnt documents and everything else too when they came into certain areas. Like everything to me, man. Mm. Everything to me, man, is just like been manipulated by them, man. It's just been changed purposely, whatever, and whatever. So now we're gonna talk a little bit. We're gonna jump subjects, and we're gonna talk about these Modoc Indians. Okay. Hopefully, Mr. Wanagi. Let me see if I can share this shit to him. I would like him to come in here and see what I found out in less than 24 hours about his motherfucking folks. And this is gonna make people stop fucking with me. The more you fuck with me, the more I'm gonna find out about your folks. And when I find out about your folks, you ain't gonna like it. Cause he said yesterday, Mr. Where's it at? Mr. I can't find his name to send it to him. Did he block me all of a sudden? He got mad. I don't know. Maybe this only shows the people I'm following. Mm. Yeah, I don't know how to share. If anybody knows how to share this motherfucker to Mr. Wanagi. See if we can get his ass up over in here. But yeah, let's tell, because this is gonna be interesting. Like, how did the Modocs? Because that's what really made me want to do it. Besides just to fuck with him, I never noticed the Modocs was up there. I never noticed. I never really paid too much attention to the tribes up there. Mm. Now I know about the Seneca tribe. I know about the Shawnee Indians. I know about the Ottawa. I've heard about Quapaw, and I didn't realize. I forgot that Sister Soul that was up here yesterday, or Sister Feelgood. She was Quapaw, she is Quapaw, and I was just thinking that in my head too, like, oh yeah, like, so what did really happen, right? Like, how did these Modocs get over here when they wasn't over here before? In Peoria, I don't know much about the Peoria. That's my first time seeing it, and I've heard of the Wyandots, but I don't know much about them. Because as those who don't know, it used to be this in 1830 after the first removal. This is the way it was set up. Quapaw and Seneca was up there, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, whatever. It started to get changed up. We started leasing out land to the government, and when we leased the land to the government and they pay the fees to the tribes for the lands leased, then they brought in these other Indians that they call Indians. Now, I believe that that's a trickery. It's like you put all these black folks who are Indians next to these white folks and Spaniards who have taken over either taken over tribes already, or you have placed them in that place and those people are still around and they're still doing their thing. And now they misclassified as Negroes, and now y'all acting like y'all the real Arapahoes and Cheyennes and shit. But one of the two, either they did that or whatever. But either way, they placed them next to us. Okay, and what's the purpose of that? You might say, well, this was Indian lands, so they wanted to place the Indians next to the Indians, right? Well, how come they didn't get Indian land in the first place? And if that's the case, how come we had to lease land to the government in order for them to get a spot in our country? That's kind of like an arbitrary spot. It's not. Notice R says nation next to it. Notice theirs don't say Arapaho Nation. Now, I don't know if that's a formality. I don't know if I'm just reading too much in it, but they don't say nation. These say nations. Because you do nation to nation treaties typically. But you can also you might be able to do business to business treaties, but like corporation to corporation, but I don't know how to look into that. But either way, I want you to get in your head that the only reason why these people even here is because they done moved them over there to us because we done leased the land to us. to them. Now these people act like there are people, right? They done put them next to us, and then got them over here acting like they are people, and then put them in photographs and all this other stuff, and then they done called you freedmen, X'd y'all out, saying y'all used to be slaves to the people that look like that, the people that look like these weirdos, like this. You used to be slaves to people like this. Yeah. There's no way y'all could take these people. They're just too savage. Too strong, too savage. They would have kept you in bondage perpetually. That's what they want you to think. This nigga right here would have had us scared. Or how about these people right here with their guns? Do y'all think these people who lay down on the ground like this, and look at his facial expression, do y'all think these people could have stood a chance with these Seminole soldiers right here? Do y'all think the Seminoles would have been afraid of them people? Said, nah, exactly. Exactly. $5 B&B, Airbnb Indians. Yeah. Look at that. Let's just think about this. Think about the visuals. And these are around the same time visuals, to be honest. Both of these big photos are probably around the early 1900s. So in the early 1900s, our soldiers was whooping ass on the actual United States, while the Modocs were lying about whooping ass on the United States. And I'm gonna show you how they was lying about whooping ass, because they was doing this. This is how they was. This is how they was when they was holding their guns and being laying on the ground, smiling and shit. And they try to say that these people, we would have been slaves to these people. Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to get away. Okay. So let me show you what I read here. See if I can find it. Modoc War was following system. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's read this. And that's as if this is talking about the same war, and I believe it is. So it says y'all can see it. I don't want to make it to where you can see it, actually. It's so damn wide. Okay. When the Modoc War began, the Modoc warriors this is from the Modoc's website, Modoc Nation's website. Then we're going to read the newspapers, see if we can get the truth. It says, is Mr. Wanagi in here? Somebody share this to Mr. Wanagi. I wish I could figure out how to share this bitch to him. But yeah, so when the Modoc War began, the Modoc warriors, with their wives and children, retreated to the nearby lava beds. The war was fought nearly 150 years ago, yet it stands out in the American military history as the most incredible of Indian wars. Captain Jack did not muster more than 60 men throughout the war. But for almost 8 months, he withstood the United States Armed Forces that came to number over 1,000 men, supported by mountains, howitzers, and Coehorn mortars. He says the Modoc lost only 6 men by direct combat, while the United States suffered 45 dead, including General E.R.S. Canby, the only U.S. general to lose his life, blah, 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 blah. I want you to notice, they said, hey, the Modocs only lost 6 men while the United States suffered 45, right? All right, we're going to fact check them in the newspapers. I hope they know that. What did I find in the newspapers? Let me find it. Mr. Mr. Wanagi, you should have shut up and then y'all could have kept your little legacy, you know. Okay, 15 Indians were killed in the all women children. The Indians were treated. Okay, now, hold on. That was 15 of them being killed. That's a different one. Hold on. Let me show you. Uprising. Okay. By State Telegraph. Uprising of the Modoc Indians in South Oregon. A fight between the Modoc and U.S. troops. 4 chiefs and 11 Indians killed. 3 whites killed and wounded 4. A large number of Indian women and warriors are captured. Troops in a precarious situation, state, whatever. The Modoc Indians. So this is one part of the war where it looks like more than 6 of them, and I don't see 45 out of 3. I don't think that. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's see here. They said the Modoc Indians state that all settlers of the river have been massacred and that 80 warriors are in the field with only 35 soldiers from Fort Klamath. Companies are organized. Okay, so this is just something about they done massacred some folks. That's what they say they did in some town, not the U.S. Army, and that's if they did that. Modoc Indians, Oklahoma, Oregon, rushed through. Hold on, let me show. That's about the reservation. After 40 years, the tribe is going home. Okay, that's the Modocs having to go to Oklahoma because we'll get into that. They were getting removed as prisoners of war, but we'll get into that. Modoc Indians, Oklahoma removed. I thought I had another one here. Hold up. Modoc scene, Modoc request, whatever. Modoc got 1 savage, children slavery was in the immigrant past. Thought I had another one up in here. Hold on, Modoc is for the amount of articles advanced in its time signing the treaty. We'll get to that. Tribe retreating and hostile, so we informed the quarters. I know. We'll get to all that. Oh, yeah, because I didn't even start looking it up until after that. Modoc Indians refused to be removed. During the parley, one Indian fired upon the Lieutenant Boutel. He missed his aim, and Boutel returned the fire, unaliving and killing the Indian instantly. Fire began between both sides of the battle, lasting 2 hours, and a desperate character ensued. 1 soldier was unalived and 4 wounded, and 2 citizens, William Nash and Hercher, were killed. 15 Indians were unalived, and all women and people, whatever. So again, this is a second verse on showing about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 YT folks getting unalived or whatever, and 15 Indians, okay? I don't know where they got this whole thing that 60 of them went up against 1,000 of them, and only 6 of them lost their life. If y'all don't quit playing games, it ain't what I'm reading here. Here's another one. 15 were killed, nearly all the women, so it's almost like a repeat of the same thing. And then this was, okay, I knew I had like at least 3 or 4 different accounts. So it's all about the same situation. So when I look about the situation, it looks like y'all just be lying about what y'all be doing, talking about only some 60 people or whatever got unalived or whatever. 6 out of the 45 or whatever. Unless this is different from that, but I doubt it is. I was looking at a lot of different things. But I could have missed it. Maybe they did multiple wars. But then I started looking at something too, and one thing that was funny to me as I was looking at it was, and I still don't know what to make of this. I still don't know what to make of this. We're going to read it. But I was like, what? Nigger Bill? Okay, so it says, we'll go up a little bit. It says that they were of the Lelex tribe, who himself in Oregon on a visit to General Palmer to get a close paper and his something, whatever, that the Modocs of Tule Lake had been doing all the mischief recently done and were led by Nigger Bill. So that's what I was going to be asking. Who's Nigger Bill that was leading the Modoc Indians? And why would they call him Nigger Bill? When Mr. Wanagi, you should have left me alone, okay? Nigger Bill would have went down in history and nobody would have knew about him. But now I'm wondering who the hell is Nigger Bill? And why was he leading y'all? Really makes you wonder. Then you start wondering. And I was thinking this in the past, did the Modocs used to be a black tribe and they got taken over by some Spaniards and not reclassified, but redone purposely by some Spaniards and Filipinos and random? Because you got to think about this. White folks don't really get all the way over to the west coast, until around the late 1800s. Now, when I say white folks, I'm talking about the English. Now, that doesn't mean Russians wasn't over there, Spaniards wasn't over there, Filipinos, Chinese, East Indians, Siberians, Russia. It don't mean that they wasn't all over there. In fact, I got some things that'll show you that in my Miwok folder from a government screenshot from a website. So it'll tell you all these people were over here. Now, the thing is, we know what has been going on in our history somewhat. We kind of looking into all these wars and things that happen down in our area of the Southeast Woodland Indians, right? We don't really know exactly all the information on what was going on over there, to be honest with you. Up until the point to where these white folks, because even when I look up newspapers for these areas, the newspapers don't even start showing up until late 1800s or early to late 1800s. For some of these, most of these mid to late 1800s on the West Coast. So then it's like, okay, so if I want to find out what was going on there, I got to go to the French archives, Spanish archives. I don't know if it's going to be some Russian records or whatever the case may be, but we really don't. Some of us, some of y'all might, but I really don't know what was going on. And could these tribes all of them have existed and been black, and then got taken over? And one case study we have with that, with a tribe that's really close to this. So for those who didn't see it, let me pull it up. So I'm looking for they little Modoc shit, and I'm also looking for another. I might just type it in. Yeah, I'll just type it in. All right, Modoc. And it's right next to Shasta. Also now, and I've heard that people say the Shasta Indians were black and are still known. They still know about being Shastas today. I don't know anything about Modoc, but they close to the Shasta. I don't have a case study per se yet on the Shasta, but when you come down here, you will see Miwok. The Miwoks, okay? Now, they're not that far from each other on the coast, off the coast, okay? It's still a decent little ways, but it ain't terribly far. I mean, you ain't just gonna foot it there in a day, but but they're close, all right? Now, we know that the Miwoks, I'd rather just pull up the book. Hell, fuck it. We know that the Miwok Indians were black because Lewis Corris, when he came there in 1822, for those who haven't seen it, 1822 is when his book came out. He went and he drew the Miwoks looking like this. I don't know why this is tripping. He drew the Miwoks like this. Okay? Black people painting their faces half green. And they had the little headdresses on and shit like this in 1822. Now, these people look vastly different from the people who call themselves Miwoks today, which would be people who look like Mr. Wanagi that we were showing. Look how they're trying to put on some of the headdresses and play games, right? But this is how the people look. Now, completely devoid of color. The hair is no longer thick and straight. It's just on their head. And instead of using the right photographs, they use a whitewashed version on the National Parks and Services government website. It's the same version. They've demelanated and decolorized the photographs. Now, why would they do that? But, they also, when I was watching their museum at the American Miwok, I noticed many things too. Now, you'll see, like, they have this white man wearing this Miwok outfit, you know what I'm saying, playing games. But another thing you'll notice is, let's see, where is it at? Let me open this real quick. Location. Right here. I also noticed in the museum that they have the whitewashed version of this photo too, because there's no color in it, right? And you got to ask questions like, one, that's a pretty shitty ass museum at that, Y'all just got pieces of paper, I can make a museum. But two, the photograph looked like this, okay? Now, these people almost could be mistaken to be like a little bit of Mexican look, but not necessarily, in my opinion. Somewhat, to a degree. But that dude looks like he could be, I always say he looked like Lil Durk to me. Like, if you straighten our hair, we look like some Mexicans. In fact, I can't just say it don't happen. I've had Mexicans, when my hair was not in locks, I've had Mexicans just go by me and say, and speak Spanish to me and shit all the time. Okay? People be trying to act and play games as if we don't have multiple different phenotypes. Because he drew them like that, but he also drew them like this. Now, these ones don't look Mexican, but these are also the inhabitants of California. So he's showing different people in California. Now, these don't look all super Asiatic or Mexican-like, right? But some of us do. And then also, these are the inhabitants of California, and these don't look all Mexican-like some of those, right? But they have a look, right? We got different looks to us. Somalians be acting like I look like them. I be like, come on now, check my forehead size, okay? You know you didn't see the same kind of forehead, nigga. Anyway, so when you think about this, you got the Miwoks right there below the Modocs. And it's almost like they may have been a black tribe, just like possibly the Shastas are. They may have been a black tribe. That has not, because you got to think about this too, like I was showing you, because now we have a visual. So the white folks the English come in from this side. Now we got other people, everybody else was coming in over here. And actually, I'll show you this. We'll show you just the Spaniards real quick. I'll show you them coming from all angles. But then that's not including everybody else that would have been coming. But the Spaniards, in their own museum, have a map like this on the wall. And you got the United States. You got Spain right there, España. And you got the Philippines and Asia over here, okay? All of these lines are coming from Asia and the Philippines. All of these lines is coming over here and here. So if you wonder why all these Chinese, Mexican looking folks, Filipino looking folks is all up over here, well, that's why. I mean, and then you only got, there's less lines coming from Spain to here, which we think this is supposed to be the easier way to get here. But apparently this must have been easier because they was coming like crazy. All these lines, okay? All these lines landing all in these spots. And that's just the Spaniards. So you got to think, on this side, a few things have happened. And let me also show you another receipt. I'll show you, what is it under? Where my Miwok folder at? There we go. So, right here. This will tell you that this is when I was looking at the Miwok Indians on that side. This is the history of San Francisco. It says 3 great powers, Spain, England, and Russia, sought dominion on the Pacific coast and regarded San Francisco as key to success. Spain won, and to that fact, we owe the peculiar richness of our background. Reading the story of the founding of San Francisco, there has always been a sense of pageantry, hovering, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so main thing to take from here is Spain, England, which came from the other side, and Russia. So Spain was bringing over people from the Philippines and everything else because they were coming from the Philippines. That's why it's named after King Philip of the from Spain. King Philip is why they call it the Philippines. Okay, so the Philippines. So they were bringing them. They were bringing other Asiatics. They were bringing Mongolians, whoever. Russia was coming over here. Ain't no telling who the hell Russia was bringing. Okay, and also on some of these voyages there were black folks. Let me see if I can find that particular book. How do you spell biscuit? Okay. Yeah. So this is going to be on the same coast, okay? This is out of a book, Researches Philosophical Antiquarian concerning the Aboriginal something of America. Okay. Though America possesses some dark brown men approaching to black, yet it has been almost universally believed that there were no Aboriginal blacks or Negroes found on this continent. But from considering the peculiar circumstances under which a black race was found in North America, I hold it more than probable that the common opinion is erroneous, saying yes. Everybody's saying that ain't no black people here, but nigga, we found a lot of black people, so y'all must be wrong. Y'all are erroneous. Okay? So it says, Torquemada, which is a voyager, says the Californians showed no manner of surprise at the sight of some Negroes that accompanied Vizcaíno, a voyager, on a voyage to this coast AD 1602. So think about that. Black folks was coming over on a boat in 1602 with some of these people, okay? Some of these Spaniards and some of these other folks. That doesn't mean that they were slaves either. People, and that's the next thing people will say. They were slaves. They was bringing over slaves. Shut up. Everybody act like everybody had us as goddamn slaves. Y'all are some fucking weirdos. We was not slaves to the fucking world, okay? We the most strongest, how we beat everybody in every goddamn Olympic, this fucking thing that's been out in this bitch that has anything to do with might, strength, athleticism, and anything else, but the whole goddamn world want to claim we was a slave. Well, you was a slave to the Chinese too. And when the Philippines got here, you was a slave to them. And you was also a slave to them Modoc Indians. And shut the fuck up, man. Anyway, let me shut up. I was going off. Okay. So yeah, Vizcaíno, who had some Negroes with him, right? On a voyage when he went to California, right? In 1602. He says, as I have never seen Torquemada's Monqueria, Indiana, I can only quote from Vinayas. He's basically telling where he's quoting this from. He says, who says from Torquemada that when a Negro from their boat was ordered to distribute some biscuit to the California Indians. Hold on, y'all. Okay. So yeah. So when Vizcaíno brought some niggas to California with him, okay, and he sent a nigga out to distribute some biscuits to the nigga Californians, and that's what we're gonna find out. He says when he sent out there to distribute them some biscuits, he said to the Californians, it says at the Bay of Barnabas, he says the natives seemed greatly pleased at the sight of the Negro and signified to him that they lived. Hold on, y'all. I gotta find this actual another page. Showing off photos. Show me one of these. I hate that. Like, all they gotta do is when you select that showing other photos, when it zooms out, they like highlight or whatever the one that you was on, so you know where it was, and you can kind of start from there. I don't know. It's like these people that build these OSs are just completely idiots. Complete idiots. I said completely idiots, and then I sound like a completely idiot there. Where'd it go, man? Okay, here we go. There you go. So he says that when Vizcaíno, let's see, talking about company of Californians, the Bay of Barnes greatly pleased at the sight of the knee. Okay, when he was sent to the order to distribute some biscuit to the Californians at the Bay of Barnabas, the natives seemed greatly pleased at the sight of the Negro and signified to him that they lived in friendship and correspondence with people of his color, and that not far from there was a Negro village. Okay? This was in a book by a voyager that came to the California coast. And we know that the California coast was named after Queen Califia. All that. They try to say that story was a myth, but there's all kind of castles, old world stuff all over there. San Francisco has the old world buildings. Had a whole fucking old world. Let me just show y'all real quick for those who ain't seen it. Some of y'all seen it, but those who ain't seen it, San Francisco has remnants of old, like the old fairs. What do they call it? World fair shit. They one of the only ones that still kind of got remnants of that shit. And so then you got to really think, what the hell was going on the California coast? Because they want you to think it was primitive as hell. They want you to think it was primitive as hell and nothing existed. And then when they got there, they built up hella super dope shit, Romanesque type stone ass fucking shit everywhere. And then they just tore it down, almost all of it, and then started building squares everywhere. And they forgot how to build these, and they don't care about none of it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, we were doing hella big things. I really want to know how this was built. I really feel like if we put our mind to it and we had access to all the materials and the technology and stuff, we can figure out how to do that again. That's why they keep us out of shit. But whatever. So let's keep going. But as it says here, Torquemada says that black people were on this coast. So again, we're really talking about these Modoc Indians, but I'm kind of proving to y'all based upon, again, just to kind of get us back on track, not proving to y'all, but showing y'all why I believe that the Modoc Indians, who used to be led by somebody named Nigger Bill, they probably could have been black prior. I just don't have enough proof yet. And the reason why is because you don't have enough information from the English until they get to the coast in the late 1800s. I was trying to show y'all that too. So you think about it. English start coming over here, 13 colonies. Don't even start coming this way until 1803, Louisiana Purchase. And then they got to deal with all this before they finally make their way over here. Well, what was going on this whole time over here? You know what I'm saying? who might have been wiped out. Certain tribes could have been wiped out. But also you got to think the tribes could have still been alive. What happens by the time the white folks get over here, they've perfected the art of reclassification and changing out who the Indians is going to be and who is not. So by the time they get to this side and see a bunch of Spaniards living amongst niggas and other things, right? They immediately start instituting the shit they was already doing over there. So that's another thing you got to think about is like these timelines. Like Virginia institutes reclassification because in their time they had already been dealing with Negroes coming in from Europe and any other place, possibly Africa, but for sure Europe and other places. And now you got also black Indians there, and they're like trying to reclassify everybody, right? But then by the time 1803 happens, and they move over here to the West or whatever, and you know, when was that reclassification done? Hold on, let me just, make sure I'm not misquoting. When was Walter Plecker even alive? Okay, Walter Plecker was alive between 1861 and 1947. So I can't necessarily say reclassification happened with him prior to that. Actually, the 1803 Louisiana Purchase would have already went through, but they were already somewhere in that process. And it's kind of crazy. He had to. I'm gonna have to look into this Walter Plecker thing even longer myself. You know, I know people that looked into it, but like the dates on his shit. You know what? He would have been not only really integral in the Dawes Roads for his age, but he also would have been around for the Indian citizenship of 1924 that gave the Indian citizenship to those fake folks later on. So my bad, I'm looking at this. But yeah, he would have been around for certain things. So just me looking at his date of birth, I'm like, I can instantly start thinking about significant things that happened between this and this. So 1803 Louisiana Purchase they still was reclassifying folks, but they was doing it through the through census form records and then also through freedmen. So the freedmen thing would have happened before this reclassification. So really, a lot of people talk about reclassification here when we really should be looking at the reclassification via the treaties of 1866. Because in 1866 is when they really reclassified you. Is that, you know, now, but not even just then, not even just that. I take that back. That's so many reclassifications. That was like the last final straw of the Indians reclassification because that was the last Indian territory. So let me put it like that. My bad. So they were reclassifying as they were moving. So what I'm getting to. So the Dancing Rabbit Treaty of 1830 took everybody that was in this Choctaw Nation, and the ones that left, they could still be Indians and be under Indian paperwork. But these people got reclassified in 1830. How did they get reclassified? Well, because they didn't get Indian paperwork according to what is a classification? Paperwork, in a sense. What are you and what are we writing you down on this paperwork? So when these people stayed here and the census form came the next go around, they were classified, right? And what were they classified on the census as? Because you can't just say to people they just classified. What were they? Were they classifying them on a census form? Were they classifying them on a document? Or are you just saying they were just classifying them just because that's just the public sentiment that they looked at these niggas and classified them this way? No, it's usually like who wrote this shit down and labeled you this, and that would be the census form. The census that likely came around, and it could be something else, but I can't think of anything else but the census. So the census would have came around and said, I'm having to research treaties because of my lands, my family lived, had farms. Yeah, and that's where you're going to find some issues. That's where you're going to find what was the classification was happening, what happened to the people that got to keep their land, and really there might be some more that you might uncover that deals with the land too. Everything is made weaker to last shorter periods of time. How's it? Yeah, that's real talk, and that's based on them. They don't. I used to think they did it on purpose. Now I'm starting to think they don't know how to build nothing. But I do know, man. they got a lot of these technologies locked away. You know, they know about these technologies. Some of them, man, they just be bullshitting, keeping out the real good technologies. But what you have here is those people get classified on paper in 1830, reclassified. Those that didn't get reclassified, they got to be classified as Indians, went to Oklahoma. They get reclassified in 1866 as freedmen, which basically says that they were slaves and nothing. But people in like down here get reclassified after the last treaty with the Seminole Wars. So with the Seminole Wars treaty, somewhere around 1856, something like that, people got to leave and people got to stay. The ones that stayed were classified on the next census as a Negro, black, colored, or whatever, right? So each time you get somebody moving in or moving around or instituting a census or whatever, then that's when you get your classification change. Now this right here, I really got to go look into it now because he would have been he wouldn't have even started even working on anything until 1880s because of his age. He wasn't even born till 1861. So by the 1880s, they was already instituting the treaties had been out. Albert Pike and the Masons, they had of each tribe. Every tribe had a chief that was a Mason at that time. I'll pull up that clip. And so by that time in 1866, you got corruption at its highest of people reclassifying the last of the Indians as freemen. So that way it just completely erases out the idea that black people are even Indians, and they already instituted these other type of Indians were Indians. So the reclassification, I'm just trying to, I do know that the Indian Citizenship Act came out in 1924, which was really called the Snyder Bill, which gave Indians who fought in a war citizenship. I don't even be watching her videos. I need to really unsubscribe. I used to watch her videos and used to go on there because it used to be like a bunch of red pill passport bro loving folks that be on that channel. And so I would go on there and be talking shit to them. Get your game up, nigga. Y'all bullshit. Yeah, they be on there. Only when they be shitting on women. I don't mind people talking bad. I mean, like talking about experiences with women and stuff like that. But when you just completely shitting and that's all they was just doing is just completely shitting and shitting and shitting. And so I used to go, I'd dress up, get up there, man. And that was when my name was Chef Bay. And they hate when I come up. It's just like now. It's just now it's on a different way. Now when people hate when I come up because they know I'm coming with the facts about this history. But then it was like they hated it because they knew I was about to come with some other kind of facts, but some harsh realities about nigga. Get your game up. You on here talking about you would have like niggas that wouldn't even show themselves on camera. I mean, you can tell that they was overweight. And they sitting there talking about, yeah, these women, you can't even find a woman that ain't overweight no more. These women, I get on that motherfucking camera and be like, yeah, show your motherfucking self, nigga. You fat ass nigga gonna sit over here talking about women fat. Nigga, you need to get you a fat one. That's fine. That's your mate, nigga. What the fuck you talking about? You don't complain, nigga. That's your match. Now, if you want to, anyway, let me get off that tangent, nigga. They used to hate me, nigga. I may pull up one of them videos one day if I can find it. Imagine me back then, man. Like now I slap your ass with hella facts, but back then, you can debate those topics, but nobody ever wins because it's all opinion. You know what I'm saying? Whereas over here, I can just shut your ass down with facts, and then it's just like. You'll either troll after that or you'll bring counterfacts. I'm cool with people bringing counterfacts, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what the whole debate is about. But, I'll be ready. It's still a problem, a hell of a problem. They used to hate. I'm telling you, man, I jump on panels. Like if I jump on a panel right now with the Pan-Africans and I don't say nothing, all you gonna hear somebody like, oh, here he comes. Or some kind of statement. Oh, there's Mr. Battle right there. There's something. He wanted to jump his punk ass up here. Oh, I get denigrated before I even say anything. Okay. I just coming up here with a little information, man. Y'all already mad at me. That's cool, you know. But all right, so I'm gonna have to look into this because I feel like his reclassification has to do something with the 1924 Act, because he would have been more prominent during those years of his age, especially looking like that. Especially during the Dolls. I think he probably came around during the end of the Dolls or around the Dolls, and then was around during the reclassification. So now I got a new project. I know other people have looked into it. I'm telling you, look, I watch other people's content, yes. I don't watch a lot, especially recently. I don't really watch a lot. I typically like the type of content I usually try to watch, and no offense to people because I make content. I think y'all should keep making content, and I should watch more of your content and support it. But I tend to watch a lot of old videos. Like, let me show you. Like right now, if I'm looking at a video, right now I'm looking at more documents than videos these days anyway. But if I'm looking at video, it'd be like some shit like this. Where is it at? That shit was still up. Oh yeah, it's not Library of Congress. Why am I looking for a Library of Congress tab? Because I do need to watch. Oh yeah, it was about the Modocs. I may have closed that bitch out. I may have closed that bitch out. Oh no, here it is. This right here. Like I'm gonna be watching some shit like this and them Alabama shits.
Back to the 19th century. We need to understand how Native Americans entered the visual record and the themes and tropes that influence and that are...
Look. Little did this lady know she's erasing her own future history. She could be a whole Modoc her goddamn self. She wouldn't even know. She about to let somebody come up. Here's a Modoc Indian. Why? There's some other dude I think that speaks. Hold up. Where he at? Or maybe she did give a presentation. I need to watch her. I thought it was somebody else. I thought it was a little, oh, she was giving the presentation. You know what?
Material, the calotype is...
I thought it was a Asiatic looking dude that was doing it because I didn't zoom in all the way. That's why I was like, she gonna introduce this little Asiatic dude, but nah, that's her. Now it made me wonder. Now I gotta go watch this.
Stereographs, right? These images, and
I don't know why this won't go full screen. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I wonder what she is. And you can see that hair, and I wonder if she is claiming to be one. Now I really gotta watch it. Mr. Wanagi, don't let her claim to be Modoc on your ass. Don't let her claim to be Modoc, Mr. Wanagi. I know he's not in here. But this is for the playback. Yeah, don't let her claim to be Modoc. I'm going to be like, oh, that nigger Bill means something then. Oh, okay. But we'll see. I got to get to it. But yeah, so I was just saying, like, when I'm watching shit, like, I'm watching this or some other stuff. These days I'm looking at a lot of documents and stuff like that. But not to say that I don't support content, because I do watch some content when I do it. A lot of times it's just listening to y'all do live streams, because I can listen to live streams because it's just going. It's almost like listening to talk radio, and I can be sitting here scrolling through documents. That's so you. A lot of times y'all see me on your live streams listening or whatever, but I ain't looking. Sometimes I might be looking, sometimes I will be looking, but a lot of times I'm just scrolling and searching and researching. So that's like a lot of my days, you know what I'm saying? So, and I was saying all that to say, I could go watch people's videos about Walter Plecker, and not to say that I haven't seen some videos about it in the past, you know, about the basic stuff, but, you know, I might have seen some stuff about the more intricate stuff, and it went over my head at the time. So when I do my own research and I come out with videos, people may think that I might step on toes, because I might say some of the same shit you said. You know what I'm saying? But I don't remember what the hell you said. I ain't even gonna lie. I just remember the basic outline of like what you said. And I really should do better. I should learn some things. If like some things go over your head because you just don't know the timelines too. Because like people, it's all about how you explain it. You know, so like I know about Walter Plecker. I know about reclassification. I know y'all see me laying down. I know about Walter Plecker. I know about reclassification. I know about that's about it. And is it my fault? Sometimes it is. Like, I will admit that I've looked at videos of like even the Moors in the past, like and looked at it in more recent times. Like maybe somebody shared like a video that I've seen in the past of a Moor talking about Black's Law or some shit on Twitter, and I start watching it, and I be like, damn, I didn't know that she was talking about some Indian shit and how we're indigenous to this motherfucker and shit like that. Now it's the Moors, they gonna throw their whatever in there, but I was like, damn, I didn't know they was talking about that. So that was on me that I missed that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be like, oh, they didn't tell me. No, I missed it, and it went over my head, and for whatever, for it must not have been the time for me to learn it. And sometimes that's it just is what it is. But also, if you can teach it a little bit, if she would have taught it a little bit differently, like her just saying we are indigenous to this place and blah 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 and this and that, y'all don't realize this and that. That don't really tell me. You know what I'm saying? That's why I try to, with a lot of my stuff, I really appreciate y'all supporting, and I love my people that support. I try to not only bring hard facts, I bring visuals, and try to lay out timelines and try to make it seem simple, no matter how intricate it may be and how much changes and bullshit that doesn't happen. I try to make this shit be like, like that. And I think the more people that can explain it, like, and there's other people that do that too, not just me. There's lots of goats on this app that do that. But I feel like that's why I might be lacking in certain things, is because of that. But anyway, I was saying that on like the lacking in certain things, like the Walter Plecker situation. Like, how come I don't really know exactly? And what's crazy is I remember even reading the little letter that he put out, but for some reason, I'm trying to put it in context to what I know now, and it's hard for me to give it a timeline because even then, I didn't even know when it happened. To be honest with you, so like, who was getting city or who was being reclassified? Why at that time when a lot of reclassifications technically were already done? Is it like some final straw in legislation that just had happened? Like, I'm gonna have to fight. I'm gonna have to like figure out that real. My bad. Let me look see what y'all saying. It's a complex history. You do amazing. I appreciate that, Melon. I be trying, man. So you top tier, bro. Keep up the good. I appreciate that, Judeline, man. I be trying to do my little something, man, and try to break this down, man, and cover as many bases as possible. And I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody. Everybody plays a great part in this thing, man. And we all trying to figure this whole story out. But I damn sure got to figure out, just like after I get off of here, which will be here pretty soon, I'm going to be diving into this damn story. I ain't even going to lie to you because I'm like, what the hell? And I'm gonna figure it out. But okay. What the hell was I talking about? So we were talking about the Modocs. Yeah. Now, I want to get to this land thing because in Oklahoma, and they don't really have land in a sense. It was under Quapaw or whatever. So looking through, let me see if I can see, okay. Let me see where I started off with my little receipts this morning. All right. That's supposed to be Captain Jack and the people they were warring with. This is supposed to be the band that's Captain Jack. The shit looks so fake, dude. I can't. I really just, it's really hard for me to get them. And even the names seem like they would come from a black folk. Like, other than Captain Jack, Bogus Charlie, Hooker Jim, Scarface Charlie, and Snack Nasty Jim. Like, we the ones that do cool aliases like that. You know what I'm saying? So really, and then you see Nigger Bill. So I'm really thinking they really like just appropriated a tribe. You know what I'm saying? Took the niggas. The niggas it probably was a battle with some black folks, and they probably did give them hell, and then they appropriated and changed the story. By this time, in the late 1800s, they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they was already whitewashing and all that shit being going on well before. They done already did the Indian school shit, and in fact, this is around the time where the Indian schools is about to get going. So these people start having their wars around 1817, and some of these people end up being some of the people that end up going to the Carlisle Indian School. In fact, right here, Carlisle Indian School, Klamath Agency of the Modocs. And then I'm going through some of their paperwork. This is some of their paperwork. They are Reservation Modoc Indian. Okay, so I like when I say I be going through that shit, nigga. Application for enrollment in a non-reservation school. Why is that important? Why did I take this consent form? Well, I took this consent form because these same people who signed this consent form, okay, these same people who filled it out and signed it, okay, will get on a stand. Y'all seen it. We'll get on the stand and do this.
That hearing with her words.
I remember seeing my mom crying as she stood and watched 6 of her 8 children being placed on a big green bus and taken to Fort Totten Indian Boarding School in Fort Totten, North Dakota. That image is forever imprinted in my mind and in my heart.
Well, I hope you cried to your mom when you find out that when she signed the consent form, she put down there that you were going to be there for. Hold on, where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? Oh, yeah. She put down that you were going to be there for a period of 5 years. Yeah. You signed your kid away for 5 years to go to a boarding school where you won't see him for 5 years. Yeah. I don't know why they crying. That's what they signed up for. And in many cases, they even pay tuition. Boy, the lies. Who came up with this whole idea that they were going to make this boarding school story a sad thing? Because look at this. This dude said, hey, wait a minute. Is it so-called Indian? No, I did that because they said so-called Indians. Did I take that? Damn, I don't know if I screenshot that. It might not have been that so-called Indians try to give an occasion. I may not have took a screenshot of it. But one of these papers in here, if not multiple, they explain that they enjoyed their time at school. They learned so much. They wouldn't have been where they at in a sense without the school, whatever, Some of them went to war and fought for the war, fought to get their independence. Fought to get their citizenship. But yeah, I didn't see a whole bunch of people in there just, talking shit. I really wonder when this whole we went to boarding school and they erased our identity. I bet it was to try to really just further the propaganda within us. No, our identity was erased. We went to Indian schools, which we did. Our Indian schools existed before their Indian schools, and now that we know, just like our Indian Citizenship Day existed before their Indian Citizenship Day did in 1924. We were celebrating it at Hampton University by 1898 or 1896, something like that. So just like we were celebrating Indian Citizenship Day, and then they came out and did it Indian Citizenship Day too. Oh, that's what you want to do? They went ahead and also said, "Oh, y'all did Indian schools? Well, we went to Indian schools too, and we lost our information, but we kept it. We lost it, but we kept it. Now let that sink in. We want you to believe that we went through the same process, but we we kept our shit because we just so indigenous. And we're amazing indigenous folks. That's what they want you to believe. And I want me to believe that I got a lighter in my motherfucking backpack. Yes. I want me to believe I got a lighter in my backpack, and I did. God damn it. I knew I had one more left. Interesting. What's up, Nikki? There's an American Indian month and a Native American day. Huh. I didn't know. I didn't think about this. Let's see. American Indian month. November is, they calling it, that's what they say right now, but they say Native American Heritage Month, a time to celebrate the rich. Now I want to know how far back this goes. When did this start? It's history. The observance grew from earlier Native American holidays and weeks. Now when they say it grew from earlier Native American holidays and weeks, that's when you got to go look up in the newspaper and say who the hell was really doing this shit first. Because that's what they try to say about Indian Citizenship Day. I almost lost my train of thought there. What's it? Native American Day? Native American Day? Or was it American Indian Day? No, Native American Day. September 25th. What month was this? So in November they get a goddamn month, and then September, October, November. Now I'm gonna have to look into how these both got constituted and look into like when in the newspaper to like who did it first. Let's see, Native American Day, also known as Indigenous Peoples Day. Celebrate now that other one didn't say Indigenous Peoples Month. Celebrates Native American cultures, because when these people are explaining it, this is gonna be with the language of the bullshit, right? I need to go looking like .gov sources or other shit to see if there's anything listed, but it may not be like anything fast available. But observe on different days. One often on the 4th of February. Blah blah blah. Is as an alternative to Columbus Day, common in many states. Related observance. National Native American Heritage Day is celebrated the day after Thanksgiving. Oh, I didn't know that. That's a different one. 4th of whatever is celebrated the day after Thanksgiving. 4th, honoring tribal sovereignty and contributions. I would look into both of these now that Nikki done said about something about them, because I'm curious. He said it changed. They used to say American Indian. Yeah. I'm not surprised, especially when I'm reading from this bullshit. Especially when I'm reading from there, Native American Day, and they be changing it. And then you got the month. They say it's Native American Heritage Month. Let me go down here. Now there's a .gov source on this one though. Let me see. November is National Native American Month. Library of Congress, National Archives. Look at this bullshit these folks they got in here, man. They don't quit playing games. And see, that's why it's hard, because when you look at these people, and you can just think about them back in the day. This could be like, I'm not sure if this is right here, but this could be like one of our mulattoes or yellow bones or whatever. It ain't even got to be a mulatto mixed with anybody, but you know what I mean? One of our more fair-skinned folks, because my dad would look something like this. And they'll go and find somebody like this and be like, yeah, that looks just like that, right? No, nigga, that don't look just like that, okay? Or this lady over here. No, nigga, that's not the same person, nigga. Y'all quit playing games. Now, that probably could be right there with y'all. She's probably just doing a hell of a good job cosplaying. But it could be a person that's mixed, or it could be a person that's not mixed, that's just hella light-skinned. Who knows, right? I'd have to figure that out. But then they'll put a person like, look at that. If they don't quit playing games, y'all all look the same, right? It's about the same thing, right? No, it ain't about the same thing. That's the kind of game. See, we'll put one of him in there with you too. Yeah, same kind of skin color. He's wrinkly, so don't even ask about phenotypes no more. He's just too old to understand the phenotype. But you clearly see he's Asiatic though. You can't you can't really get away from your phenotype like that, but you know, you can kind of cloak yourself with other old people as everybody's faces start to decline. But yeah, no, they be playing games. They be playing games. I don't believe nothing on this damn screen. All this is modern bullshit. Here's the Indian affair. Let's see what they got up. Yeah, they don't have any propagandist photos except for this, but that might be an advertisement for something. Look at this. Yeah, there's your Indian right there. We'll put one of those in there for you. Yeah, we'll throw one of those in there for you. And she looks like y'all, don't she? Welcome to the Native American, whatever. Weaving. Our theme is weaving together our past and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, some bullshit. I would personally have to go look in the newspapers to really get the real, to be honest, for something like this, because a lot of this is going to be political language at this point. National heritage of the census, Native American Heritage Month, blah, blah, blah. 7.4 million of the nation's American Indian and Alaska Native population is now just hitting 7.4 million. So let's think about this, y'all. Okay. Yeah, let's think about this. Y'all know how they say we can grow from 333,000 slaves brought over on a boat, which it wasn't that much, to 45 million people today? Well, what was the American Indian population in 1850? Around 383,000 in 1850, right? What they saying here, I'd have to try to back the numbers up somewhere, census and shit like that, but 383,000, or about somewhat what they said they came over the boat. Now the boat would have came in 1715, not 1850, but this gives us an idea of about 150 year span. So if you were to double what the people turn out to be today, then you'll kind of get a number. So 150 years would be 1850. Another 150 years from 1850 would be 100 years would be 1750, 1700. And the bulk of those people started coming around 1700. 1715 is what's recorded. So, okay. Well, it said what? The Native American population now is 7.4 million. If you double it, that gives us 150 years. That's 15 million. So, to get to 45 to 50 million, you need another 400 years worth of slavery. 300, 400 more or whatever years worth of bringing motherfuckers over on boats. You see how that number don't add up? Even if you just go by the basics of the basic and you use a test population, you know. And then people try to say, it's just slave breeding. Yeah, quit playing games. Quit playing games. So, yeah, just so you know, it was impossible for those numbers to reach that number of 383,000 people to equal 45 million people by our time, just off of that. And on top of that, it was really only 90,000 that they got records on, and not even all of those 90,000 came to the mainland Americas either. So really, it's just a whole fucking bullshit story, you know. So yeah, yeah, I don't really have too much else, man. I done been on here for quite a while, holding y'all's attention, putting in the game and all that other stuff, man. I got a little bit of work to get to today in a little while, and I hope, you know, y'all getting it in too, enjoying the day if you're not, putting in work for your tribes as far as studying, doing your own genealogy, or just supporting things like this. I think just being here supports your folks. Just game any kind of thing you do that's helping other folks and gaming other folks and then supporting other folks. It's all in the same realm. What's up, Tabitha? Yeah, it's all within the same realm of us moving forward. So I appreciate y'all coming up in here, man, and y'all have a good rest of y'all morning. You said who are the? My bad. I was about to select y'all. I was almost about to click out. You said who are the archaeologists that provide evidence? Evidence for what? Just about to click out. I got a couple minutes. Evidence for what? You wanted me to show you some archaeologists? People like this?
Which is limited to those artifacts and features that are actually preserved. Alabama is an incredibly rich archaeological area. It is actually harder to find sites without Indian artifacts than those with them. The 29,000 sites discovered thus far are a small percentage of the actual total. Very few of these sites have been excavated by archaeologists. If you'll notice, many of these sites cluster along rivers.
So, sir, did you hear that? In Alabama, there's over 29,000 sites that they know about. That's only a small amount. So if you think he said there's a small amount, that probably means there's over 100,000+ sites. He says it's actually harder to find a site that you can dig that isn't an archaeological site with stuff on it than anywhere else. These are indigenous people to America. Do you know where Alabama is? You don't know where Alabama is, sir, and where the archaeologists is. You don't know this? Yeah, this is Alabama, where black folks are, where black folks have always known to be. Y'all don't really have, or are you, or what are you? What are you asking? Are you on our side? Are you a contrarian saying you're not an Indian and you think there's no black people who are Indian? Is that what you are? Are you a Siberian Indian lover? Or do you know about the black Indians? Do you hate us? What's going on? I don't know. I could have you pegged wrong. Okay, that didn't really help me out. I don't know what's wrong with people. I don't know what he's saying. Y'all. He could be on our side, and I could just be jumping the gun. I just don't know why you asked me for the archaeological evidence. What's going on? You Cherokee? That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. Pretty funny. Because, so am I, brother. Eastern Band Cherokee? Are you an Eastern Band Cherokee, or are you just from South Carolina? Are you black? Let me just ask you this. Are you black? Melanated? Yes or no to that? I know, right, Ebony? Sumter? Okay, you got to be black then. If you a Sumter. I think I might have a Sumter in my damn, what you call it? I might be on you. You just might be. Okay. Well, there you go. Okay. Yeah, we got it. Okay. I'll get over. You got me thinking you over here, on the opposite, on the opposite of the game. But okay. I thought I had something with Sumter in it. That name looks familiar. These pulled up, but I doubt Sumter's listed in there. That name sounds familiar though, like I've seen it somewhere. Said Russia Cherokee. Nah, he black. That's what's up, man. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know why you asked for the archaeological evidence like that. That was just kind of out of the blue. And maybe that's what made me think. 'Cause that's usually what a op would say. Where's the archaeological proof? Or where's the DNA evidence? Those are like their two main talking points. So that's why I threw you in that box instantly. But you might have just been asking questions. All right. Exactly. Yeah. Everybody know. We know the MO of some of the talking points of folks, man. So And you didn't have an avatar, so I just threw you over there. But you good. You good in our book. You good in our book. December 11th at 11. You know what? I need to get on my computer and I need to block off some days. All right, y'all, man. Yeah, you're good. I was just making sure we didn't have an op that I had to, slice up real quick, but he good. So yeah, I'm gonna get off here, man. Appreciate y'all. Always love the support, man. Y'all have a good morning.